My sister's text was only 7 words, but it read like a prison sentence. "We're renovating. You're paying half." She attached a contractor's quote for $92,000 and added that Mom said it was my turn. I texted back a single word, "No." 10 minutes later, she posted a family-first photo featuring a car she didn't own, my SUV. I left exactly one comment, and her perfect little life began to crumble like dry rot. My name is Isla Simmons, and at 36 years old, I have learned that the most dangerous things in life often arrive silently. They do not come with sirens or thunder. Sometimes, they arrive as a simple vibration against the fake wood grain of a desk at 2 in the morning. I was sitting in the central control room of Riverpoint Facilities in downtown Pittsburgh. Being a shift coordinator for a major infrastructure firm meant my life was measured in metrics, flow rates, and incident reports. I was good at it because I was good at spotting disasters before they happened. I could look at a slight pressure drop in a boiler system 3 miles away and know a pipe was about to burst. But as I sat there, nursing a lukewarm coffee and staring at the monitors, I failed to predict the catastrophic structural failure that was about to hit my own life. My phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a notification from Marissa. My older sister usually did not text me at 2 in the morning unless it was an emergency or she needed money. Given that she knew I was working the night shift, she probably assumed I was awake and vulnerable. I slid the phone to unlock it. The message contained 7 words. They were simple, direct, and violent in their entitlement. "We're renovating. You're paying half." Below the text was a PDF attachment. The preview thumbnail showed a professional letterhead from a company called Lux Build Contractors. I frowned, the blue light of the monitors reflecting off my glasses. I tapped the file. It opened slowly, spinning for a second before revealing the damage. It was a formal estimate for a home renovation project. I scrolled to the bottom line, first, a habit from my job. When you work in facilities management, you always look at the cost before you look at the scope. The number made my breath hitch in my throat. $92,400. I blinked, sure that the fatigue of the double shift was making me hallucinate. I zoomed in. No, the number remained the same, $92,400. And my sister, with the casual confidence of someone who has never faced a consequence she could not cry her way out of, was demanding I cover $46,200 of it. I set my coffee down. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a sudden, white-hot spike of adrenaline. I went back to the itemized list on the quote. Marissa lived in our childhood home, a sprawling craftsman in the suburbs that our parents still owned but had essentially surrendered to her. I had moved out at 18, clawing my way through college and 2 jobs to buy my own modest townhouse. Marissa had stayed. She had moved her husband in, then moved him out when they divorced, and now raised her kids there while Mom and Dad lived in the in-law suite over the garage. The text message implies a shared responsibility. We are renovating. I read the line items. Master suite expansion, $12,000. Ensuite spa bathroom with heated floors and rainfall shower system, $18,000. Gourmet kitchen overhaul, including marble waterfall island, $35,000. Sunroom addition with skylights, $27,000. I read it again. There was not a single line item for a new roof. Nothing for the HVAC system that I knew was 20 years old. Nothing for the foundation repair Mom had mentioned last Thanksgiving. This was not a maintenance invoice. This was a wish list. This was a Pinterest board brought to life with a price tag that could pay off my mortgage. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I could have typed 1,000 things. I could have asked her if she was insane. I could have asked why she thought I had $46,000 lying around when she knew I was picking up extra shifts just to pay for Ellie's braces. Another text popped up before I could type. Mom says it's your turn. The manipulation was so clumsy it was almost insulting. Mom says, it was the trump card Marissa had been playing since we were 6 years old. If Mom said it, it was law, and your turn implied a ledger. A balance sheet where I somehow owed a debt. My turn for what? My turn to fund her lifestyle. My turn to buy her heated floors while I walked on cold laminate. I typed the only answer that mattered. I did not offer excuses. I did not apologize. I did not ask for a payment plan. No, I hit send. I watched the three little dots appear immediately. She was typing. Then the dots disappeared. She was recording. A voice note appeared in the chat. I looked around the control room. My colleague, Dave, was asleep in his chair with his headphones on. It was quiet. I pressed play and held the phone up to my ear. Marissa's voice filled my headspace. It was that terrifying tone she used, soft, almost sweet, like she was explaining something to a toddler who was too stupid to understand the world. "Isla, sweetie," she purred, though the static of the recording could not hide the razor blades underneath. "Don't be difficult. You know the house needs this. It is falling apart. Mom and Dad are on a fixed income, and I'm doing everything I can just to keep the lights on here. You're the one with the big corporate job. You're the one with the lack of overhead. Mom agrees that it is only fair you contribute to the family legacy. If you can't help us build a home, well, maybe you don't need to be part of the celebration this year. I'd hate to tell Ellie that her aunt and grandma don't want to see her for Christmas because her mother is too cheap to help family." The audio ended with a sharp click. I sat there, frozen. The hum of the servers seemed to drop away, leaving me in a vacuum of pure rage. She was weaponizing Christmas. She was weaponizing my 10-year-old daughter. She was threatening to cut us off from our parents, from the only grandparents Ellie had, if I did not sign a check for a luxury renovation that had nothing to do with me. "Legacy," she had said. The only legacy Marissa was building was a monument to her own greed. I did not reply. I could not reply. If I replied now, I would say things that would scorch the earth so badly, nothing would ever grow again. And as much as I wanted to burn it all down, I had to think about Ellie. Ellie loved the big house. She loved the chaos of her cousins. She loved her grandmother. I put the phone face down on the desk. My shift was over in 20 minutes. I needed to breathe. The drive home was a blur of gray slush and red taillights. Pittsburgh in December was beautiful in photos, but brutal in practice. The heater in my car rattled, a reminder that I needed to get it looked at. But I had been putting it off to save money for Christmas gifts. The irony tasted like copper in my mouth. I was shivering in my sedan to save $200, while my sister was demanding I pay for her heated floors. I pulled into the parking lot of my complex. It was a decent place, safe, clean, but modest. I walked up the 2 flights of stairs to my unit, the keys heavy in my hand. Inside, the apartment was warm. The babysitter, a nice college student named Sarah, was asleep on the couch. I woke her gently, paid her $60 I had worked hard for, and watched her leave. I crept into Ellie's room. My daughter was sprawled out across her twin bed, one leg hanging off the side, her mouth slightly open. She looked so peaceful. On her nightstand was a small, pathetic-looking pine branch she had found in the park. We had stuck it in a jar and hung 3 ornaments on it. "Our baby tree," she had called it. She was excited. She had been talking about Christmas at Grandma's for weeks. She wanted to bake cookies in the big kitchen. I gently lifted her leg back onto the mattress and pulled the duvet up. "I won't let them hurt you," I whispered to the dark, "but I won't let them bleed me dry either." I went to my own room and sat on the edge of the bed. I was exhausted, my bones aching from the chair and the stress, but my mind was racing. I needed to understand the angle. Marissa was entitled, yes, but this was bold even for her. $92,000. She had to know I would say no. So why ask? Unless she thought she had enough leverage to force me. I picked up my phone again. It was dangerous to doom scroll when you were angry, but I couldn't help it. I opened the social media app. Marissa's profile was the first thing on my feed. Of course it was. She posted 5 times a day. The post had gone up 10 minutes after I sent my text. It was a photo taken earlier that day in the driveway of the big house. It was staged to perfection. The winter sun was hitting the snow just right. In the center of the frame stood Marissa, looking radiant in a cream-colored coat I knew cost $400 because I had been with her when she bought it with Mom's credit card. Next to her were her 2 kids, smiling angelically. My parents were there too, looking frail but happy, Mom holding a mug of cocoa. The caption read, Family first. So blessed to be starting our dream renovation soon, big changes coming to the family homestead. It takes a village, and I am so grateful for everyone pitching in to make this happen. Family blessed renovation. New chapter. I stared at the picture. Everyone looked so happy, so complete. Without me, I went to the comments. So exciting, wrote one cousin. You deserve it. Marissa, wrote a neighbor. Can't wait to see the new kitchen, wrote her best friend. I felt a phantom pain in my chest. They were publicly celebrating a renovation they expected me to secretly fund. They were taking a victory lap before they had even secured the money, banking on the fact that shame would make me open my wallet. But then, my eye caught something in the background of the photo. I tapped the screen and pinched to zoom. The photo was framed to focus on the people, but the driveway was visible behind them. Parked right behind Marissa, slightly out of focus but unmistakable, was a black SUV. My stomach dropped. It was a late-model luxury SUV. Leather seats, panoramic sunroof, top-tier trim package. It was the car I had bought 3 years ago. Well, to be precise, it was the car I had signed the loan for 3 years ago. Marissa had called me, sobbing, saying her old minivan had died and she couldn't get to work, couldn't get the kids to school. Her credit was shot from the divorce. She needed a cosigner. I had done better than that. I had put the loan in my name to get her a better interest rate, with the explicit written agreement that she would make the payments and refinance it into her name within 6 months. That was 36 months ago. She had never refinanced. I looked closer at the photo. The car looked gleaming. She had just had it detailed. I switched apps and opened my banking portal. I navigated to the loan section. The payment for that SUV came out of a joint account we had set up for this specific purpose. Marissa was supposed to transfer the money in, and the bank would auto-draft it out. I clicked on the transaction history. Insufficient funds. Transfer failed. Late fee applied. Overdraft protection. Transfer from Isla Simmons' primary savings. I stopped breathing. I scrolled back. Last month. Partial payment. The rest covered by my savings. 2 months ago. Late payment. Covered by my savings. I had been so busy with the extra shifts, so focused on keeping my head above water at work, that I hadn't audited the specific line items of that secondary account in months. I just saw the balance go down and assumed bills were being paid. I wasn't just paying for the car. I was subsidizing her illusion of success. I went back to the photo. Marissa, smiling, blocking the license plate of the car she drove, but didn't pay for. The caption about family first mocked me. They had cropped me out of the family narrative. I wasn't in the picture. I wasn't in the village she thanked. I wasn't in the warm circle of cocoa and smiles. But as I looked at that SUV, and then back at the $92,000 invoice, the cold reality settled over me like a shroud. They could crop me out of the photos all they wanted. They could threaten to uninvite me from Christmas dinner. They could pretend I didn't exist when it came time to give credit or show love. But they kept me very much present in the invoices. I was not a sister. I was not a daughter. To them, I was a walking, breathing line of credit. I was a ghost in the machine of their comfort, invisible until the bill came due. My thumb hovered over the comment button. Marissa thought she had won. She thought the threat of exclusion would bring me to my knees. She thought that by posting this picture, she was cementing her reality that the renovation was happening, that she was the matriarch, that the world was hers. She forgot one thing. The name on the title of that car in her driveway wasn't Marissa Simmons. It was Isla Simmons. And Isla Simmons was done paying for the view. The sun was barely up when I finally dragged myself out of bed after my shift, but my mind was already racing, rewinding through a decade of history. The $92,000 invoice was not an anomaly. It was not a sudden break from reality. It was simply the final, monstrous evolution of a pattern I had allowed to fester for years. In every family, roles are assigned early, often before we even know how to speak. Marissa was the chaotic one, the one who felt everything too deeply, the one who needed rescuing. I was the stable one. I was the one who did her homework on Friday nights. I was the one who saved my allowance. I was the rock. But the problem with being a rock is that people assume you do not feel the weight of what they build on top of you. It started small, insidious enough that I did not even notice the hook setting in my cheek. 10 years ago, it was $20 for gas because Marissa had left her wallet at home. Then it was $50 for a grocery run because her card was declined. And she had a cart full of food for the kids. Then it was $100 for an emergency vet bill. "I will Venmo you right back," she would say. Sometimes she did. Most of the time, she forgot. And when I reminded her, the guilt trip was immediate. "Oh my God, Isla, I am so stressed right now. Can we not talk about money? I promise I will get it to you." If I pressed, I was the bad guy. I was the petty sister counting pennies while she was drowning. So, I learned to stop pressing. I learned to swallow the loss to keep the peace. I told myself it was just money. I told myself I was helping, but the help grew teeth. 5 years ago, my parents needed a new water heater. They were short $800. Marissa called me, frantic. "Mom is crying. Isla, they have no hot water." "You have that savings account for the house down payment, right? Can't you just dip into that?" "It is Mom and Dad." I paid it. Marissa contributed nothing. But she was the one who drove over to their house and hugged them while the plumber worked, taking credit for organizing the solution. The request became a monthly subscription to my bank account, a utility bill here, a car insurance premium there, and always, the logic was the same. The math of our family was rigged against me. "You only have one kid," Marissa would say, eyeing my modest living room. "I have 3. Do you know how much sneakers cost for 3 growing boys? You have it so much easier." Isla. Easier. She ignored the fact that I worked 50-hour weeks at the plant, picking up night shifts and holiday rotations to get the overtime pay. She ignored that I was a single mother with 0 child support because Ellie's father was a ghost who disappeared before she was born. She ignored that my stability was not luck. It was the result of waking up at 4 in the morning to study for certifications, of driving a 10-year-old sedan, of cooking every meal at home because I could not afford takeout. Marissa's chaos was a choice. My stability was a survival tactic. The biggest trap, the one that should have made me cut the cord years ago, happened 3 years ago on a rainy Tuesday in November. Marissa had called me from a car dealership. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Her minivan had finally died, thrown a rod right on the highway. She was stranded. She had no way to get the boys to school, no way to get to her part-time receptionist job. I left work early and drove to the dealership. I found her in the waiting room, red-eyed and trembling. "They won't approve me," she hiccuped, wiping mascara from her cheek. "My credit score tanked after the divorce. They want a 20% interest rate. Isla, I can't afford that. I just need a cosigner. Just for a little bit." I looked at the sales manager. I looked at the sleek black SUV they were trying to sell her. "Why this one?" I asked, looking at the sticker price. It was not a budget car. "Why not a used sedan? Something reliable and cheap." "I need the space for the boys," she insisted, her voice rising in that way that signaled a meltdown was coming. "And the safety features. Do you want your nephews riding around in a tin can?" "It has lane assist. Isla, it has blind spot monitoring." I hesitated. I knew better. My gut was screaming at me to walk away, but then she grabbed my hand, her fingers digging into my palm. 6 months, she swore, looking me dead in the eye. "The divorce settlement comes through in April. As soon as I get that check, I am refinancing the whole thing into my name. You will be off the title before summer. I swear on my life." I looked at her desperate face. I thought about my nephews. I didn't just co-sign. The finance guy explained that because her credit was so bad, co-signing wouldn't get the prime rate. The only way to get the 0.9% financing was if the primary borrower had a score over 750. So, I put the car in my name. I signed the papers. I took the risk. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging me so hard I lost my breath. "You saved us. You are the best sister in the world." That was 36 months ago. The divorce settlement came and went. Marissa bought new furniture. She took the boys to Disney World. She did not refinance the car. Interest rates are up, she told me when I asked 6 months later. It would be stupid to refinance now. Let's just wait a bit. Then, the payments started slipping. The first time I got a late notice, I called her in a panic. "Oh, I forgot to transfer the money." She laughed. "Mom brain. Sorry." The second time, she was short. $200. The electric bill was insane this month. "Can you cover the difference? I will pay you back next week." She never did. For the last year, it had become a silent routine. The payment date would approach. I would check the joint account. It would be empty, or have $50 in it. And I, terrified of a late payment hitting my credit report. The credit report I needed to keep spotless for my own mortgage renewal would transfer the money from my savings. I was paying $550 a month for a car I did not drive, to protect a credit score that my sister was actively trying to destroy. And it wasn't just the car. 2 years ago, I had foolishly suggested we combine our phone plans. "It is cheaper for everyone," I had said. "We can get the family bundle." It was supposed to be 4 lines: me, Mom, Dad, and Marissa. I sat at my kitchen table now, the morning light gray and unforgiving, and logged into the carrier's website. I hadn't looked at the detailed PDF in months because the autopay just worked. I clicked on the Devices tab. There were not 4 lines. There were 7. I stared at the screen. 3 new lines had been added 14 months ago. iPhone 14s. All on installment plans. User Marissa Simmons. User Jaden Simmons. User Tyler Simmons. She had added lines for my nephews. And she had upgraded her own phone. All without asking me. All charged to the account that was linked to my credit card. I did the mental math. The extra lines. The device payments. The insurance she had tacked on. That was an extra $200 a month I'd been absorbing. Why hadn't I noticed? Because I was tired. Because I was busy. Because when the bill fluctuated, I told myself it was data overages or taxes, but mostly because I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that my family respected me. I wanted to believe that if I just kept the waters calm, they would treat me right. I scrolled through my banking history, the raw data of my exploitation staring back at me. There was a charge at a Best Buy in November, $200. I remembered that. Marissa had called, said her laptop charger broke and she needed it for work. But she left her card at home. I gave her my card number over the phone. There was a charge for a school trip fee, $300. There was a transfer to Mom for groceries, $400. I had justified every single one of these at the time. It was the holidays. It was an emergency. It was for the kids. But looking at it now, in the cold light of a $92,000 demand, I saw the truth. I wasn't a family member. I was a resource. I was a vein of gold they had tapped, and they were mining me until the tunnel collapsed. They didn't see me as Isla, the sister who worked night shifts and drove a sedan with a rattling heater. They saw me as an endless ATM that dispensed cash in exchange for guilt. And the worst part, I had taught them to treat me this way. Every time I said it's okay when she missed a payment, I was teaching her that my boundaries were suggestions, not walls. Every time I covered a bill to avoid an argument, I was paying a ransom for a piece that was fake. I thought about the Renovation quote again, the spa bathroom, the waterfall island. Marissa wasn't asking for this because she was delusional. She was asking because, for her entire adult life, the answer had essentially been yes. Maybe a reluctant yes. Maybe a yes with a sigh. But a yes nonetheless. She thought she could bully me into this because she held the keys to the kingdom. She controlled access to Mom and Dad. She controlled access to the family gatherings. She held the emotional hostages. But she had miscalculated. The car, the phone lines, the constant bleeding of my accounts. It was like a slow-acting poison I had built up an immunity to. But this $92,000 renovation, this was an overdose. I stood up and walked to the window. My car, my humble, reliable sedan, sat in the parking lot below, covered in a thin layer of frost. I thought about the black SUV sitting in my parents' driveway, my SUV. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was clear. For years, I had been paying a toll to be on this road with them. I paid to be included. I paid to be the good daughter. I paid to avoid the drama, but the toll had just gone up to a price I could not afford, and frankly, a price I was no longer willing to pay. My family operated like a corrupt little government, levying taxes on the one citizen who actually produced anything, and I had been the compliant taxpayer, nodding and signing the checks while they threw parties with my money. I turned back to the table and looked at my phone. The screen was dark. Marissa was probably sleeping soundly in her warm bed, dreaming of her new kitchen, confident that her little sister would fold. She was used to the Isla who feared conflict. She was used to the Isla who valued family harmony over her own bank balance. She didn't know the Isla who had just spent the last hour adding up the ledger. I wasn't going to just say no to the renovation. I was going to audit the entire administration. I sat back down and opened a fresh notebook. I uncapped a pen. It was time to stop being the family banker and start being the debt collector. I wrote down the first item on the list, the black SUV. Beside it, I wrote possession. Then I wrote phone plan. Beside that termination, I looked at the words. They looked cold. They looked legal. They looked like justice. The renovation wasn't going to happen, but a demolition was definitely on the schedule. And unlike Marissa's project, mine wouldn't cost me a dime. It was going to cost her everything she had taken for granted. My phone did not stay quiet for long. I had barely finished writing my battle plan in the notebook when the screen lit up again. This time, it was not Marissa. It was Mom. The name on the screen usually brought a sense of warmth, or at least obligation. Today, it brought a wave of nausea. I knew, with absolute certainty, that the thumbs tapping out the message on the other end might belong to my mother, but the words were scripted by my sister. Marissa says you are refusing to help. I do not understand. Isla, you make the most money. You have that big job. It is your turn to carry the load. I stared at the text. Carry the load. It was a phrase my father used to use about shoveling snow or carrying groceries. Now, it was being used to justify a near six-figure renovation that I would never enjoy. I typed back, my fingers stiff. Mom, did you see the quote? Do you know how much it is? The reply came instantly. I know it is going to make the house beautiful. Marissa says we need to update to keep the value up. Don't be stingy. Honey, it is unbecoming. Stingy. I paid their property taxes last year. I paid for the new tires on Dad's truck. I paid for the insulin pump copay that insurance wouldn't cover. But because I wouldn't fund a waterfall island for Marissa to drink her morning smoothies at, I was stingy. I decided to bypass the proxy war. I was not going to argue with Mom, who was likely sitting at the kitchen table with Marissa hovering over her shoulder, coaching every sentence. I went back to the source. I opened the chat with Marissa. Renovation implies fixing things. I wrote, this quote is for a luxury remodel. Who is this for? Marissa, where is Mom's part? I don't see a walk-in tub. I don't see the ramp Dad needs for the back porch. I see a spa bathroom attached to your bedroom. I watch the typing bubble appear, disappear, and appear again. She was rewriting. She was calculating. It is for the whole family. She finally sent. When the house value goes up, that benefits everyone. Stop trying to make this about me. You are so obsessed with keeping score. Mom and Dad live here too. They deserve a nice kitchen. They have a kitchen. I replied. It works fine. If you want a marble island, you pay for it. Then came the pivot. It was a move she had perfected over years of dodging accountability. She ignored my logic completely and went for the logistical jugular. We need to lock in the contractor. He is the best in the city, and his schedule is filling up. I need you to wire your half today. Just send $46,000. We can figure out the rest of the details later. I actually laughed out loud in my empty apartment. It was a cold, sharp sound. $46,000, I typed. You want me to wire $46,000 based on a PDF you sent me at 2 a.m? Yes, she replied. Mom agreed. She said you would do it. The pressure was physical. A tightening band around my chest. She was banking on the sheer audacity of the request to stun me into compliance. It was the foot-in-the-door technique, except she was trying to kick the door down with a battering ram. No, I wrote, Absolutely not. Why are you being like this? Her messages started coming faster now. Short bursts of anger. You have the money. I know you do. I saw your bonus check stub on the counter last Christmas. I felt a violation prickle my skin. She had gone through my mail. That is none of your business, I retorted. If you want to talk about this seriously, send me the contract. I want to see the building permits. I want to see the breakdown of labor versus materials. I want to see the timeline. There was a long pause. Then, a voice note. I pressed play. Her voice was shaking, trembling with that weaponized fragility she used so well. Isla, seriously. Permits contracts. You are treating me like I am some stranger trying to scam you. I am your sister. We are family. Why do you have to bring all this corporate red tape into our home? You don't trust me. You don't trust Mom. This is hurtful. You are being incredibly hurtful right now. It was a masterclass in deflection, by asking for basic financial safeguards, the kind anyone would demand before buying a used car. Let alone renovating a house, I was accusing her of being untrustworthy. But the thing was, she was untrustworthy. I didn't reply to the voice note. I did something else. I held down the power and volume buttons on my phone. Click. Screenshot of the text demanding the wire transfer. Click. Screenshot of the claim that Mom agreed. Click. Screenshot of the quote itself. I saved them all to a hidden folder in my cloud storage. If this blew up, if she tried to spin a narrative that I had promised to pay and then reneged, I would have the receipts. I am not transferring $46,000 without a contract. I typed, keeping my language neutral. And I am not paying for a renovation that I did not authorize. Marissa dropped the fragile act. Fine, she texted. Be that way. I hope you are ready to explain to Aunt Linda and Uncle Jerry why the family Christmas is canceled. I'm going to tell them exactly why. I'm going to tell them that you are sitting on a pile of cash while Mom and Dad live in a construction zone because you are too selfish to pitch in. You are ruining this family. Isla, you are choosing money over people. Construction zone, I whispered to myself. They hadn't even started yet. She was already spinning the timeline, creating a crisis where there was none. You can tell them whatever you want, I replied. The answer is no. I set the phone down, my heart hammering against my ribs. It is a terrible thing to have to steel yourself against your own blood. It goes against every instinct of survival and tribal belonging. But I knew that if I gave in now, if I sent even $1,000 just to start, I would never see the end of it. It would be $46,000 now, then another $10,000 for unexpected overages, then $5,000 for upgraded finishes. I stood up and walked to the kitchen to pour a glass of water. My hands were trembling. I needed to calm down. I needed to get ready for Ellie to wake up. I had to put on my mom face and pretend that her aunt wasn't trying to extort her mother. I heard the ping of an email notification from my laptop, which was still open on the table. I assumed it was a work email, maybe a shift change, or a report from the morning crew. I walked over and tapped the spacebar to wake the screen. The subject line hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. Subject deposit invoice. 4092. Due upon receipt. Luxbuild Contractors. I frowned. Why was I getting this? Marissa had sent me the PDF earlier, but that was a forward. This was a direct email. I opened it. Dear Ms. Simmons, thank you for choosing Luxbuild for your home transformation project. We are thrilled to get started on the master suite and kitchen expansion. Per your conversation with our project manager, please find the link below for the initial deposit of $46,200. As discussed, work is scheduled to begin on Monday. Provided the deposit clears by close of business today, please note, by clicking the link and submitting payment, you agree to the terms of service attached. My eyes scanned down to the bottom of the email. Client Marissa Isla Simmons. Billing address. My address. Contact email. My email contact phone. My phone number. I sat down heavily in the chair. The room seemed to tilt. Marissa hadn't just asked me for the money. She hadn't just bullied me. She had gone to the contractor. She had sat down with this stranger. And when it came time to fill out the billing information, she had given them my name. She had given them my email. She had given them my phone number. She had presented me as the financier. She had likely told them, "Oh, my sister is handling the billing. Just send it to her. She's expecting it." That was why she was so frantic for me to wire the money. She had already pulled the trigger. She had promised this contractor a payday that she did not have, using my identity as the collateral. As discussed, the email said, I had never spoken to LuxBuild in my life. I looked at the Pay Now button glowing blue in the center of the screen. A chill went down my spine that had nothing to do with the winter draft. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This wasn't just my sister being greedy. She had formally involved a third party. She had created a paper trail that linked my legal identity to a $92,000 debt. If I ignored this, and if she had signed anything forging my name, I looked at the clock. It was 7 a.m. Marissa thought she had checkmated me. She thought that by having the official invoice sent to my inbox, I would panic. She thought the legitimacy of a contractor's logo would scare me into clicking that blue button just to make the problem go away. She thought this was the closing move. She was wrong. She had just handed me the weapon I needed to destroy her entire scheme. She had brought a stranger into our fight, and unlike family, strangers have to follow the law. I reached for my phone, but not to text Marissa. I needed to make a call, but not yet. First, I needed to save this email. I printed it to PDF. I saved the headers. I documented the timestamp. Marissa had wanted a renovation. She was about to get a demolition. The email from the contractor sat open on my laptop screen, a digital ultimatum glowing in the early morning light. The Pay Now button was a blue eye staring back at me, unblinking and expectant. My sister had not just overstepped a boundary. She had bulldozed right through it and built a foundation for a debt I never agreed to satisfy. I did not click the link. I did not text Marissa back. Instead, I opened a new browser window. If she wanted to play games with finance, she was forgetting that my entire career was built on logistics, tracking, and resource management. I shifted gears from the hurt sister to the shift coordinator. I needed a forensic accounting of my own life. I logged into my primary bank portal. Usually, I just checked the balance and the pending transactions. Today, I downloaded the statements for the last 12 months. I exported them into a spreadsheet. I was going to look at every single cent that had left my possession. The first thing I did was filter by recurring charges. I knew about the car payment, I knew about the phone bill, but as I scrolled through the raw data, patterns began to emerge like cracks in a dam. January. A charge of $49 for device protection. I didn't have device protection. My phone was 3 years old and paid off. March. A charge of $14 for a streaming service premium plan. I used the free version with ads. May. A charge of $120 to an online ticket vendor. I highlighted them in red. These weren't large enough to trigger a fraud alert from the bank, especially since they were often from vendors I had used legitimately in the past. They were small, parasitic drains. Marissa knew my passwords. She knew my security questions, after all. Mother's maiden name and first pet were shared family history. I moved to the mobile carrier's website. I had seen the extra lines earlier, but now I needed the details. I navigated to the billing history and expanded the equipment charges tab. It was worse than I thought. 2 months ago, right before Thanksgiving, 2 iPhone 15 Pro Max units had been added to the account. 0 down. $40 a month each for 36 months. I picked up my phone and dialed the carrier's customer service line. It was 7:30 in the morning, so I got a representative quickly. Riverpoint Facilities. This is Isla speaking, sorry. Force of habit, I corrected myself, rubbing my temples. This is Isla Simmons. I'm the account holder. I am looking at my bill, and I see 2 device upgrades initiated on November 14th. I did not authorize these. The representative, a polite woman named Brenda, tapped away on her keyboard. Okay, let me check the notes here. I see those upgrades were processed in-store at the Liberty Avenue branch. The notes say the account was verified via PIN and photo ID. I wasn't at the Liberty Avenue branch on November 14th, I said, my voice steady but cold. I was working a double shift. Well, Brenda said, hesitating. The notes say Ms. Simmons authorized via authorized user Marissa Simmons. It looks like she is listed as an account manager. I closed my eyes. When was she listed as an account manager? It looks like that change was made last year, in June, through the online portal. I remembered June. I had been in the hospital for 2 days with a severe bout of food poisoning. Marissa had come over to watch Ellie and handle things. She must have asked for my login to check on a bill, or simply done it while I was sleeping. She had granted herself administrative rights to my life. Remove her, I said. Remove her immediately, and flag those devices as unauthorized. If we do that, we will have to blacklist the phones, Brenda warned. They will stop working. Do it, I said. After I hung up, I went back to the spreadsheet. I pulled up the car loan history. I knew I had covered payments, but I needed the exact total. I went back 3 years. I summed up the column labeled Transfer to Auto Loan. The total was staggering. $11,400. That was the amount I had paid out of my own pocket for a car I did not drive. But looking closely at the transaction dates, I saw the mechanism of the trap. The loan payment was set to autopay from the joint account on the 15th of every month. Marissa would transfer $200 on the 14th. The bank would attempt to pull the full $550. The transaction would fail. The bank would then trigger overdraft protection and pull the difference plus a $35 fee from my personal savings account linked as a backup. Marissa wasn't just missing payments. She was paying a fraction. Knowing the system would cannibalize my savings to cover the rest, she was counting on the fact that I wouldn't let the loan default because it was in my name. I felt a wave of heat rise up my neck. This wasn't negligence. This was a strategy. But the real horror was yet to come. I opened a new tab and went to a credit monitoring site. I needed to see my credit report. If she had used my name for the contractor, what else had she used it for? The report generated. A wheel spinning for a few agonizing seconds before the dashboard appeared. My score was still good thanks to my own obsessive covering of her debts. But under the recent inquiries section, there was a red flag. Hard inquiry. November 28th, River Valley Financial Services. I stared at the date. Thanksgiving. We had all been at the dinner table. I remembered Marissa had been particularly attentive, refilling my wine, asking about my job title, asking specifically about my debt-to-income ratio in a way that I thought was just polite curiosity. You are doing so well, Isla, she had said, spooning cranberry sauce onto my plate. It is amazing how clean your record is. She hadn't been making conversation. She had been pre-qualifying me. I clicked on the details. The inquiry was for a home equity line of credit application. Co-applicant. She had applied for a loan against Mom and Dad's house, and she had listed me as a co-applicant without my signature, or rather, without my real signature. I started a new folder on my desktop. I named it The Evidence. I took screenshots of the phone bill upgrades. I took screenshots of the overdraft transfers. I downloaded the PDF of the credit inquiry. I printed the email from the contractor. I created a timeline document, listing every date, every amount, and every lie. I needed a second opinion. I needed someone who wasn't blinded by the "but she's your sister" fog that my parents lived in. I picked up my phone and dialed Aunt Renee. Renee was my father's younger sister. She worked in commercial real estate, drove a truck, and had never let anyone get away with anything in her life. She was the only person in the family who didn't tiptoe around Marissa. Isla. Her voice was rasping, likely from her morning cigarette. It is 8 a.m. Someone better be dead or in jail. Marissa sent me a renovation quote for $92,000, I said, and she gave the contractor my email for the billing. There was a silence on the line. Then I heard the distinct click of a lighter. Start from the beginning, Renee said. Don't leave anything out. I told her everything. The text, the car in the driveway, the phone lines, the credit inquiry from River Valley Financial. When I finished, Renee let out a low whistle. Isla, honey, listen to me very carefully, Renee said, her voice dropping an octave. This isn't a renovation. This is a leverage play. What do you mean? Your parents' house is paid off, right? Or close to it. They have about 40,000 left on the mortgage. I said, okay, so there is equity, a lot of it. Marissa can't tap that equity because her credit score is trash, and she has no income documentation. Mom and Dad are on a fixed pension, so they can't qualify for a loan of that size on their own. They have the asset, but they don't have the cash flow. I felt the blood drain from my face. So they need me. They need your income, Renee confirmed. That inquiry from River Valley. That's a HELOC or construction loan. They are trying to borrow against the house, but the bank said no unless they have a co-signer with strong income. That is you. Marissa is setting up a scenario where the contractor starts work, creates a financial obligation, and then you have to sign the loan papers to pay him. Otherwise, the house gets a lien put on it. She is trying to trap me, I whispered. She is trying to strap you to a sinking ship, Renee corrected. If you sign that loan, or if she fakes your signature and it goes through, you are liable for the whole thing. And when she stops paying, which she will, the bank won't just take the house. They will come for your wages. They will come for your condo. I found a deposit link, I said, from the contractor. She wants me to pay the deposit today. Don't pay a dime, Renee barked. If you pay the deposit, you are establishing a verbal contract. You are accepting liability. Listen, Isla, you need to stop being a sister right now. You need to be a fortress. I am going to stop it, I said. Good. But you need to be smart. Don't just scream at her. Cut the supply lines. Lock down your credit. Dispute the inquiry. And for God's sake, get that car back or get your name off it. As long as that car is in your name. She is driving around with your credit score in her pocket. I know, I said. I am already on it. And Isla, Renee's voice softened just a fraction. Prepare yourself. When you turn off the money tap, they are going to get ugly. Marissa has been living on your subsidy for years. She isn't going to give that up without a war. Let her try, I said. I hung up the phone. The conversation with Renee had crystallized the last fragments of my doubt into a solid block of resolve. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. Marissa was willing to risk my home, my future, and my daughter's security to get her gourmet kitchen. She was willing to forge my consent to get what she wanted. I looked at my timeline. I looked at the Pay Now button that was still waiting on my screen. I closed the laptop. I had work to do. But not the kind of work Marissa expected. I wasn't going to renovate her house. I was going to renovate the terms of my existence in this family. I grabbed my purse and my keys. Step 1 was defense. I had to lock every door she had a key to. I drove to the bank first. Not the ATM, but the branch. I sat down with a banker and closed the joint account. I removed the overdraft protection link to my savings. Are you sure? The banker asked. If a payment comes through and the funds aren't there, it will bounce. Let it bounce, I said. Next, I called the credit bureaus. I placed a fraud alert and a credit freeze on my file. No one, not even me, could open a new account without a PIN that was sent to my phone. Then, I drafted an email to LuxBuild Contractors. To LuxBuild Accounting Subject Unauthorized Invoice 4092. Fraud Alert. To whom it may concern, I am writing to formally state that I, Isla Simmons, did not authorize any renovation work at parents' address. I have not signed any contract. The use of my email address and phone number for this invoice was done without my consent. Do not process any payments in my name. I am not a party to this transaction. Any further attempts to bill me will be considered harassment and forwarded to my legal counsel. Regards. Isla Simmons. I hit send. It felt like cutting a wire on a bomb. Finally, I pulled out the loan documents for the SUV. I read the fine print regarding authorized drivers and repossession. I texted Renee one more time. Can you send me the number for that towing company you used for your tenant evictions? The one that films everything? Renee replied instantly with a contact card. Ask for Mike. Tell him I sent you. I looked at the contact. Ironclad Recovery. I wasn't just going to say no. I was going to take back what was mine. Marissa wanted to play the family first card fine, but in the real world, The name on the title comes first. I messaged Marissa one last time before the storm broke. My car, my credit, my name, I am taking them all back. Do not use my information again. I watched the screen. No typing bubble, no read receipt. She was silent. That silence didn't scare me anymore. It was the silence of a predator realizing the prey had just picked up a gun. She was calculating her next move. She was probably calling Mom. She was probably crying. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the tears. I only cared about the truth. And the truth was, the Bank of Isla was officially closed. The adrenaline of the early morning had burned off, leaving behind a cold, crystalline focus. I was no longer operating on rage or hurt feelings. I had entered a state of pure administrative execution. My life, I realized, had become a bloated corporation of parasitic subsidiaries, and I was the CEO finally initiating a hostile restructuring. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the mobile carrier's retail store. The sign on the door said they opened at 9. I had 10 minutes. I took out my notebook. I turned to a fresh page and wrote a single word at the top: severance. This was not about revenge. Revenge is emotional. Revenge is messy. This was about survival. It was about cauterizing a wound that had been bleeding for a decade. If I tried to hurt Marissa, I would lose. She was better at emotional warfare than I would ever be. But if I simply followed the logic of ownership and liability, if I stuck to the cold, hard facts of who signed what, I could not lose. I reviewed my checklist. The bank accounts were closed or frozen. That was done. The credit freeze was active. Done. Next up, the digital perimeter. I picked up my phone. I didn't just change my banking password. I went through everything: email, social media, utility accounts, retirement funds. I used a random password generator for each one, creating strings of nonsense characters that no one could guess. Mom's maiden name was no longer a valid security question. I changed the answers to random words that had nothing to do with the questions. What is the name of your first pet? Answer titanium. What street did you grow up on? Answer nebula. Then, I hit the button that gave me the most satisfaction log out of all other sessions. Somewhere in the suburbs, on a laptop or a tablet that I had likely paid for, Marissa was being booted out of my digital life. She would try to log back in. She would try the old passwords. She would try to reset them, and she would hit a wall. I checked the time. 9 o'clock. I walked into the mobile store. The air smelled like screen cleaner and carpet adhesive. A young man with a name tag that read Justin looked up from a tablet. "Help you with something?" he asked. "I need to separate my line from a family plan," I said, placing my ID and my phone on the counter. "And I need to address some fraudulent activity on the account." It took 45 minutes. It was tedious, bureaucratic work. I paid off the remaining $300 on my own device. I requested to port my number to a singular, individual prepaid plan. "What about the other lines?" Justin asked, looking at the account history. "There are 3 other devices here with significant installment balances. The 2 iPhone 15s and an older Galaxy. Those devices were not authorized by me." I repeated the phrase I had used with the fraud department earlier. "I have already filed the dispute. As of this moment, I am removing my auto-pay information. I am removing my billing address. I am no longer financially responsible for service on those lines." "Well, the account is in your name," Justin said, looking uncomfortable. "If the bill isn't paid, it goes to collections under your social." "The fraud investigation will handle that," I said, my voice flat. "But in the meantime, since I am the account holder, I would like to report those 3 devices as lost or stolen." Justin blinked. "You want to blacklist the IMEIs? If they are not in my possession, and I did not authorize their purchase, they are stolen goods," I said. "Brick them." Justin hesitated, then typed the commands. "Okay, they will lose service immediately, and they won't be able to be activated on any other network." "Perfect," I said. "Do it." I walked out of the store with a new SIM card and a bill that was solely for my own usage. I felt lighter, somewhere, My nephew's phones just stopped working. Somewhere, Marissa's phone just went dead. She would have to find Wi-Fi to scream at me. I got back in my car and looked at the next item on the list, parents. This was the hardest part. My parents were not evil, but they were enablers. They had allowed Marissa to weaponize their needs. I opened my email and drafted a message to my mother. I kept it devoid of emotion. I did not mention the renovation. I did not mention the hurt. Dear Mom, effective immediately. I am changing how I handle financial assistance for the household. I will no longer be transferring cash to your or Marissa's accounts. If there is a bill that needs to be paid, electricity, water, or medical, please scan the invoice and email it to me. I will pay the vendor directly. I will not cover any expenses without a formal invoice. I will not cover any credit card bills where I cannot see the line items. This is to ensure my support is going exactly where it is needed. Love, Isla. I hit send. It was a line in the sand. It meant that if Marissa wanted to buy groceries with my money, she couldn't. If she wanted to sneak a manicure onto the household expenses, she couldn't. I was still a dutiful daughter, but I was no longer a blind patron. Next, the contractor. I had already sent the initial email, but I needed to be sure. I found the phone number for Lux Build contractors on the invoice Marissa had sent. I dialed. Lux Build, this is Sarah? A cheerful voice answered. Hi, Sarah. This is Isla Simmons. I am calling regarding invoice number 4092. Oh, yes. The renovation on Maple Street. We were expecting the deposit today. You will not be receiving a deposit, I said, and I need to make something very clear. I am the owner of the email address and phone number you have on file, but I am not the owner of that property. Nor did I sign any contract with you. If anyone purporting to be me contacts you, or if you receive any documents with my signature on them, they are forgeries. The cheerful tone evaporated. I see, Ms. Simmons. We have a signed preliminary agreement here. Does it have my signature? I asked. It has a signature that says, Isla Simmons, she said. My blood ran cold, but I kept my voice steady. Please scan that document and email it to me immediately. And then I suggest you shred it. If your crew shows up at that house, or if you attempt to bill me again, I will file a police report for identity theft and name your company as an accessory. Do we understand each other? I will have the project manager call you, she stammered. Don't have him call me, I said. Have him cancel the job. I hung up. She had forged my signature. I suspected it, but hearing it confirmed was a physical blow. Marissa had actually signed my name to a legal contract. She wasn't just entitled, she was criminal. I took a deep breath. I couldn't dwell on the betrayal. I had to secure the asset. The car. I opened the contact card Renee had sent me. Ironclad Recovery. I dialed the number. Ironclad, this is Mike, a gravelly voice answered. Hi, Mike. My name is Isla. Renee gave me your number. I have a situation with a vehicle legally titled in my name that is being held by a family member who refuses to return it. Renee's niece, Mike said. She told me you might call. Listen, if your name is on the title and there is no lease agreement granting them possession, it is your car. You can walk up and drive it away. I don't have a key, I said, and I want to avoid a physical confrontation in the driveway if possible. They are volatile. We can do a repo, Mike said. Since you are the owner, it is a voluntary recovery. We come in, hook it up, and drag it out. We film the whole thing, body cams, dash cams. If they try to stop us, it is interference with the owner's property. What do I need to give you? Copy of the title, copy of your driver's license, and the location. We can be there in 2 hours. 2 hours, I repeated. That would be noon. Is it in a garage or a driveway? Driveway, I said. Accessible from the street. Easy work, Mike said. Send me the docs. We charge a flat fee of $300 for a voluntary, plus mileage. Worth every penny, I said. I sat there for a moment after sending the documents to Mike. This was the point of no return. Canceling a phone plan was annoying. Refusing a renovation was disappointing, but taking the car, that was a declaration of war. That vehicle was Marissa's status symbol. It was her chariot. Without it, she was just a divorced mom in the suburbs with bad credit and a minivan that didn't run. But then, I thought about the 3 years of missed payments. I thought about the family first photo where she preened in front of property she was stealing from me. I thought about the forged signature on the contractor's agreement. She had stolen my name. Taking the car back was simply balancing the equation. I opened my text thread with Marissa. It had been silent since my no. She was likely scrambling, trying to figure out why her phone had no signal, why she couldn't log into her email, why the contractor was calling her in a panic. I typed one final message. I wanted it to be on the record. Marissa, I have confirmed you forged my signature on the Lux Build contract. I have confirmed the unauthorized phone lines. I have confirmed the unpaid car loan balance. I am done. The black SUV is legally mine. I am recovering it today. Do not try to stop the recovery agents. If you do, or if you use my identity for one more transaction, I will bypass the family discussion and go straight to the district attorney. I hit send. I watched the screen. The message went through as an SMS. Green instead of blue, because I had killed her iPhone service. There was no typing bubble, no immediate explosion of rage, just silence. It was the silence of a trapped animal. The silence of someone who realizes the door they thought was open has just been slammed, locked, and bolted shut. She wasn't ignoring me. She was regrouping. She was realizing that for the first time in her life, the mom said so card had no power. I started my car. I had 2 hours before the tow truck arrived at my parents' house. I intended to be close by, but not in sight. I wanted to watch the tower crumble, but I didn't want to be under the falling debris. I drove toward the suburbs, the heater in my sedan rattling, a noise that used to annoy me but now sounded like the steady, rhythmic marching of consequences. I was renovating. All right, I was stripping the house of my life down to the studs, and if Marissa didn't like the new layout, she was free to move out. The silence I had instigated did not last long. In my family, silence was never a peace treaty. It was just the deep breath before the scream. I was parked 2 streets away from my parents' house, sitting in the cold leather seat of my sedan, waiting for the tow truck. My phone, which had been blissfully quiet for the last hour while I handled the logistics of my financial emancipation, suddenly lit up. It wasn't a call. It was a vibration that didn't stop. It buzzed against the center console like an angry hornet. I picked it up. The notifications were cascading down the screen so fast I could barely read them. They were all coming from the Simmons tribe, the extended family group chat that included my parents. Marissa, 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and a handful of cousins. Marissa had broken the ceasefire. I opened the chat. My stomach tightened, not with fear, but with that weary familiarity of someone watching a rerun of a bad movie. Marissa, I am just so heartbroken right now. You think you know people. You think family is the one thing you can count on, but I guess for some people, a bank balance is more important than blood. Below it was a picture. It wasn't the invoice. It wasn't the forged contract. It was a picture of my parents sitting in their dated kitchen, looking confused and sad. The caption read, "Mom and Dad deserve better than this. They deserve a safe home. I am doing everything I can. But I can't carry the weight of the world alone when others who have so much refuse to lift a finger." The replies were instant. Aunt Linda. "Oh, honey, what happened? Is everyone okay? Cousin Becky. Sending prayers. Money changes people. Sadly, Uncle Jerry, who is refusing to help. Is this about the repairs, Marissa? I don't want to name names. I just think it is sad that someone can buy a luxury car and go on vacations, but won't help their own parents fix a leaking roof. Just pray for us. We will find a way, even if we have to beg." I stared at the screen, a leaking roof. The quote was for a skylight and a rainfall shower. She was lying by omission, twisting the narrative until I was the villain hoarding gold while my parents lived in squalor. She conveniently left out the part about the forged signature, the stolen phone lines, And the 3 years of unpaid car loans. I started to type. I wanted to upload the PDF of the $92,000 quote. I wanted to screenshot the spa bathroom line item and ask Uncle Jerry if he thought a heated towel rack was a structural necessity, but I stopped. That was what she wanted. She wanted a mud fight. She wanted me to get down in the dirt and scream, because in a screaming match, the one who cries loudest wins, and Marissa could cry on command. I put the phone down. Let them talk. Let Aunt Linda think I was the devil. Aunt Linda hadn't paid a bill in her life. Then, the phone rang. It was Mom. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but I needed to know where they stood. I needed to know if my mother was a hostage or an accomplice. Hello. Isla. My mother's voice was wet, thick with tears. Isla, why are you doing this? Doing what, Mom? I asked, keeping my voice level. Marissa is in the kitchen crying her eyes out. She says you canceled the renovation. She says you threatened to call the police on her. Isla, she is your sister. How could you be so cruel? Mom, I said, did you see the quote? Did you see the price tag? I don't worry about the numbers. That is Marissa's department. She sniffed. She said she had it handled. She said you were going to split it because you have that good job at the plant. You make so much money, Isla. Why do you have to be so difficult? It is Christmas. It is $92,000. Mom, I said, enunciating every syllable. It is not a few hundred for groceries. It is $92,000. Do you have $46,000 to give her? Well, no. But then why do you expect me to have it? Because you are the successful one, she wailed. It was the same refrain I had heard since I was 22. You are the one who made it out. It is your duty to help the family. Marissa has had such a hard time. The divorce, the boys, she just wants to make the house nice for us. For me and your father. Mom, I asked, cutting through the noise. If this renovation is for you and Dad, tell me one thing on the list that is for you. Just one. Silence. Is there a ramp for Dad's wheelchair? I asked. Is there a walk-in tub for your arthritis? Is there a new furnace? Well, the kitchen, she stammered. The island. The marble island with the wine fridge. I finished for her. That is for Marissa. Mom, you don't drink wine. You can't even sit on the high stools she wants to buy. This isn't a renovation for you. It is a renovation for her. Financed by me. Using your house as the backdrop. You are being selfish, Mom snapped, her tone hardening. The tears evaporated, replaced by the cold steel of a matriarch challenged. You care more about your money than you do about your mother's happiness. If you don't want to help, fine, but don't you dare ruin this season. Marissa has worked so hard to set up the party. I am not ruining anything, I said. I am just not paying for it. If you don't send that money, Mom said, and I could hear Marissa whispering in the background, feeding her the lines. Then maybe you shouldn't come on Christmas Eve. We don't want that negative energy in the house. We want people who put family first. There it was, the ultimate threat, the weaponization of the holiday. For 36 years. I had been terrified of being left out. I had endured the insults, the side eyes, and the financial abuse just to have a seat at that table. But today, sitting in my cold car, looking at the gray sky, I realized something. The seat at the table cost $46,000. It was the most expensive dinner reservation in Pittsburgh. Okay, I said. My mother paused. She was expecting me to beg. She was expecting me to apologize. What? I said okay, I repeated. If the price of admission to Christmas is $46,000, then I can't afford to go. I will stay home with Ellie. We will order pizza. You wouldn't, Mom sputtered. You would keep my granddaughter away from me. I am not keeping her away, I said. You just uninvited us. You chose the renovation over us. That is your choice. Mom, not mine. Isla, Marissa's voice suddenly screamed through the phone. She must have snatched it from Mom. Stop manipulating her. You are such a narcissist. You think you can blackmail us. You transfer that money right now, or I swear to God, I will tell everyone what you really are." "What am I, Marissa?" I asked. "A bank, because the bank is closed." "Don't you dare show your face here," she hissed. "Stay away from my house." "It is Mom and Dad's house," I reminded her. "And don't worry, I won't come in. But I'm not done yet." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from grief. I felt a strange, light-headed buzzing. It was the feeling of a heavy chain snapping. I had just been disowned, essentially, and the sky hadn't fallen. The world kept turning. I looked at my phone again. A new notification popped up. It wasn't a text. It was an email. It was from a secure document signing service. DocuSign via River Valley Title Escrow. Subject: appointment confirmation. Signing for Simmons Refinance. Today at 2:00 p.m. I frowned. I hadn't booked an appointment. I opened the email. "Dear Isla, this email is to confirm your signing appointment today at 2 o'clock at the River Valley offices on Main Street. Please bring 2 forms of valid ID. The notary has the loan documents prepared for the cash-out refinance and the renovation rider. Borrowers: Isla Simmons, Marissa Simmons, Robert Simmons, Martha Simmons." I felt the blood drain from my face. They weren't just asking for cash. They were refinancing the entire house, and they had listed me as a borrower. I looked at the time. It was 11:30. The appointment was in 2.5 hours. I dialed Renee immediately. "She uninvited me from Christmas," I said as soon as she picked up. "But that is not the headline. I just got a confirmation for a signing appointment at River Valley Title at 2 o'clock. For a refinance." "Those sons of bitches," Renee breathed. "I knew it. I told you, didn't I? It is a cash-out refi." "Explain it to me," I said. "How can they schedule a signing if I never applied?" "Marissa applied," Renee said, her voice sharp and fast. "She used your information for the application. She probably forged your signature on the initial disclosures or clicked agree electronically using your email. The bank underwriting approved it based on your credit and your income, coupled with the equity in Mom and Dad's house. But to fund the loan, they need wet signatures, or a notary." "So they need me there," I said. "Or," Renee paused, "they have a notary in their pocket, or Marissa plans to show up with a fake ID and sign for you. Is she crazy enough to do that?" "She forged the contractor agreement," I said. "She has been using my cards for years. Yeah, she is crazy enough." "This is the endgame, Isla," Renee said. "That $92,000 quote. That wasn't the bill. That was the justification for the loan. They are probably pulling out $200,000 of equity, $90,000 for the renovation, and the rest from Marissa's pocket. If that loan closes, you are on the hook for a mortgage on a house you don't own, for 30 years. And when they default, the bank forecloses on your parents and sues you for the deficiency." "I have to stop it," I said. "You have to be there," Renee said. "Don't call them. If you call, Marissa might get spooked and try to move the time or find a mobile notary who will meet them at a diner. You need to show up at that office and blow it up in person." "I will be there," I said. "And Isla," Renee added, "print that email, bring your ID, and bring the police report number for the stolen identity. Even if you haven't filed it yet, act like you have." I hung up. My phone buzzed again. Another social media notification. Marissa was doubling down. I opened the app. She had posted a new photo. It was a picture of the front of the house, looking majestic in the winter light. "So excited to announce that we are officially breaking ground on the family expansion this week. It has been a long road, but we are finally signing the papers today to secure the future of this home. Family always finds a way. Thank you to everyone who supported us. Isla Simmons, thanks for finally coming around, family. First renovation, new chapter. Blessed, she tagged me. She tagged me publicly. She was creating a public record of my consent. She knew I had said no. She knew I had just told Mom I wasn't coming. But she posted this for 2 reasons. 1, to shame me into silence. If I commented, "No, I didn't," I looked like the unstable one ruining her moment. 2, and more sinisterly, she was creating a paper trail for the bank or the notary. if anyone asked. Is your sister on board? She could pull up this post and say, look, she is so excited she is tagged in the announcement. It was a masterstroke of manipulation. It was gaslighting on an industrial scale. I stared at the screen. Isla Simmons, thanks for finally coming around. The audacity was breathtaking. She was betting everything, her freedom, my finances, our parents' home, on the gamble that I was too polite to cause a scene. She was betting that the good Ela, the quiet Ela, would just sign the papers to avoid embarrassing the family in front of the loan officer. She was betting on a version of me that died the moment I saw that invoice. The $92,000 wasn't a contractor's quote. It was the price of a lesson I had finally learned. She wasn't renovating the house. She was renovating the truth. I looked down the street. A large flatbed truck with ironclad recovery painted on the side turned the corner. It was huge, loud, and unapologetic. I started my engine. I am not coming around. Marissa, I whispered to the phone screen. But I am coming over. I texted Mike, the tow truck driver. I see you. I am pulling up behind you. The black SUV is in the driveway. Block it in. I put the car in drive. The time for texts was over. The time for emails was over. Marissa wanted a scene. She wanted to show the neighborhood how blessed we were. She was about to get the most memorable show of her life, and I wasn't paying a cent for the ticket. The notification on my phone screen pulsated like a heartbeat. Marissa Simmons tagged you in a post. I looked at the image again. My parents, looking frail and hopeful. Marissa, beaming like a lottery winner. The house, standing tall in the winter sun. And the caption, thanking me for coming around and supporting the family vision. It was a brilliant trap. If I stayed silent, I was complicit. If I deleted the tag, I was petty. If I called her privately to scream, she would record it and play the unstable sister card to the loan officer at the 2:00 signing. She wanted a public performance. She wanted the world to see us as a united front so she could leverage that unity into a 6-figure debt. I sat in my car, the engine idling, the heater blowing lukewarm air against my frozen knuckles. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to correct the record. I opened the comment section. The praise was already rolling in from the extended network of people who only saw the highlight reel of our lives. So wonderful. Family is everything. God bless you guys, I typed. My fingers were steady. Great photo. Marissa, just a quick reminder for transparency, the black SUV in the driveway is legally titled in my name, and the payments have been defaulted on for months. I am here to repossess it in accordance with state law. Please remove your personal belongings. I hit post. It took exactly 12 seconds. My phone, which I had just set down on the passenger seat, lit up. It wasn't a text. It was a call from Marissa. I let it ring. It stopped. Then a text. Delete that. Now. Are you insane? Then another call. I declined it. Then another text. You are embarrassing Mom and Dad in front of the whole church group. Take it down. We can talk about this. I typed back a single reply. You have 2 hours to get your things out of the car. Actually, make that 10 minutes. The truck is already here. I looked in my rearview mirror. Mike, the driver from Ironclad Recovery, was pulling his massive flatbed truck around the corner. The diesel engine rumbled with a deep baritone growl that sounded like justice approaching. He didn't turn on the flashing lights yet, but the presence of the vehicle was unmistakable. It was a predator entering the ecosystem. I put my car in gear and followed him. Pulling up to the curb just past my parents' driveway, I wanted a front row seat, but I stayed in the vehicle. This was a legal transaction, and I needed to be a witness, not a combatant. Mike was a professional. I watched as he hopped out of the cab. He was a mountain of a man wearing a high-visibility vest and a body camera strapped to his chest. He didn't walk up to the front door. He walked straight to the black SUV. He pulled out a tablet and took photos of the license plate, the VIN number on the dashboard, and the condition of the tires. He was building a case file in real time. The front door of the house flew open. Marissa stormed out. She was wearing the same cream-colored coat from the photo, but the beatific smile was gone. Her face was a mask of contorted rage. She wasn't holding a mug of cocoa. She was holding her phone like a weapon. "Hey!" she screamed, her voice cracking in the cold air. "Get away from my car! What do you think you are doing?" Mike didn't flinch. He didn't even look up from his tablet until he finished typing. Then he turned to her, calm and bored. "Repo," he said simply. "Title holder, authorized recovery." "I am the owner," Marissa shrieked. She marched down the steps, slipping slightly on a patch of ice but catching herself on the railing. "I have the keys. Get off my driveway or I'm calling the cops." I rolled down my window just an inch so I could hear better. "Go ahead, ma'am," Mike said. He gestured to the body cam on his chest. "I have the recovery order right here. Title is in the name of Isla Simmons. Are you Isla Simmons?" "She is my sister," Marissa sputtered. "This is a family car. She gave it to me. Paperwork says she loaned it to you, and the loan is in default," Mike said. He walked back to his truck and started lowering the flatbed ramp. The hydraulic whine was loud, cutting through the suburban quiet. "You can't take it. My kids' car seats are in there," Marissa yelled. Realizing that threats weren't working, she switched tactics instantly, pivoting to the victim role. "It is Christmas. How am I supposed to get my children to school? You are stealing from children." Mike paused and looked at her. "Ma'am, if you have personal property inside, I suggest you get it now. Once it is on the bed, it goes to the yard. You can retrieve your items there for a fee." Marissa looked around wildly. She saw my car parked at the curb. Her eyes locked onto mine. She ran toward me. I rolled the window up and locked the doors. She pounded on the glass. "Isla, stop this, stop him. Are you crazy? The neighbors are watching. Mrs. Gable is looking out her window. You are humiliating us." I looked at her through the glass. She looked desperate, but it wasn't the desperation of someone who was hurt. It was the desperation of a con artist whose props were being taken away before the big show. I picked up my phone and held it up to the glass. I displayed the text message I had sent her earlier. My car, my name. She screamed something unintelligible and kicked my tire. Mike was already hooking the chains to the undercarriage of the SUV. He moved with the efficiency of a man who had heard every sob story and every threat in the book. Then, something happened that I didn't expect. Mike waved me over. He wasn't looking at Marissa. He was looking at the windshield of the SUV. I hesitated, then cracked my door open. "What is it?" I called out. "Ma'am," Mike shouted over the engine noise, "you might want to see this. Did you authorize an appraisal on this vehicle recently?" I stepped out of the car, ignoring Marissa, who was now sobbing loudly in the driveway, trying to block the truck's path with her body. "No," I said, walking closer. "Why?" Mike pointed to a small, neon yellow sticker on the upper corner of the windshield, and a chalk mark on the rear tire. "That is an auction tag," Mike said. "And that chalk mark is from a wholesaler. Someone had this car appraised for a trade-in or a quick cash sale, probably within the last 48 hours. I felt the air leave my lungs. Marissa wasn't just driving the car for free. She was trying to sell it. She was going to sell a car she didn't own. She probably planned to forge my signature on the title transfer, just like she had on the contractor's agreement. She needed cash. Maybe the renovation loan wasn't enough. Or maybe she needed a down payment for something else. I turned to Marissa. She had stopped screaming. She was standing very still, her face pale. She knew I had heard Mike. "You were going to sell it?" I asked, my voice low. "You were going to sell my car?" "I was going to trade it in," she blurted out, the lie forming instantly. "I was going to get a cheaper one and give you the difference. I was trying to help you pay off the loan. Isla, I was doing you a favor." "By selling my property without telling me?" I asked. "That is grand theft auto. Marissa, that is a felony." "It is not theft if we are family," she yelled, stomping her foot like a petulant child. "Why do you have to make everything so legal? We are sisters." "Call the police," I said. She froze. "What?" "You said you were going to call the police," I challenged her. "Call them. Tell them your sister is stealing the car you tried to illegally sell. Let's see who they arrest." She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing. She looked at the phone in her hand. She looked at Mike, who was waiting by the winch controls. She looked at the neighbors' houses, where curtains were indeed twitching. She couldn't call the police. She knew it. One look at the registration. One look at the forged documents she was likely hiding inside the house, and she would be in handcuffs. "I hate you," she hissed. It was a guttural sound, deep and venomous. "I hate you so much. You think you are better than us because you have money. You are nothing. You are alone. You are going to die alone in that cheap apartment." "Maybe," I said, "but I will die debt-free." I nodded to Mike. "Take it." The winch engaged. The cables pulled taut. The black SUV, the symbol of her status, the vehicle she used to project an image of success she hadn't earned, was dragged backward up the ramp. It looked pathetic at that angle, a dead weight being hauled away. Marissa turned and ran back into the house, slamming the door so hard I felt the vibration through the pavement. My phone rang again. It was Mom. I answered it this time. "Isla." She sounded weak, defeated. "Mrs. Gable just called me. She asked if we were being evicted. She saw the truck. She saw you standing there. I am taking back my car." "Mom," I said, "they are laughing at us." Mom wept. "The whole neighborhood is laughing at us. You have shamed us. Your father is sitting in his chair shaking his head. He can't believe his daughter would do this to him." "Do what to him?" I asked. "I didn't touch his truck. I didn't touch his house. I took back the car that Marissa was trying to sell out from under me." "She wasn't going to sell it." Mom defended instantly. "She said she was just getting it valued. She wanted to surprise you." "Stop," I said. "Just stop. I am done with the lies. Marissa forged my signature. She stole from me, and you are worried about Mrs. Gable." "Reputation matters, Isla," Mom snapped. "We have lived on this street for 40 years. We are respectable people, and now you have a tow truck in our driveway like we are criminals." "If you don't want to look like criminals," I said, "stop committing fraud." "I am hanging up," Mom said. "And don't you dare come to the signing today. We don't need you." Marissa said she found another way. "We will save this house without your dirty money." "There is no other way." "Mom," I said, "without me. There is no loan. Don't sign anything. Please, for your own sake, don't sign anything Marissa puts in front of you." "You are dead to us," Mom whispered, and the line went dead. I stood there on the curb as Mike finished securing the chains. He walked over to me and handed me a clipboard. "Sign here for the recovery," he said. "We will take it to the impound lot. You can pick it up tomorrow with your spare key." I signed. My hand didn't shake. "She is a piece of work," Mike muttered, glancing at the house. "I have seen a lot of repos, lady. But trying to sell a car you don't own, that takes some nerve." "She has plenty of nerve," I said. "It is the only thing she has left." The truck rumbled away, carrying the black SUV with it. The driveway looked empty. The spot where the car had been was stained with oil, another leak I had probably paid to fix but never happened. I walked back to my sedan. I felt hollowed out, scraped clean. The worst had happened. The scene had been made. The neighbors had watched. My mother had disowned me, and I was still standing. I got into my car and checked my phone one last time before heading to the title office. I had one more stop to make. I had to go to that 2 o'clock appointment, invited or not, to make sure they didn't find a way to drag me back in. There was a new message from Marissa. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a threat to tell the family. It was short, dark, and terrifyingly calm. "You think you won because you took the car? Go ahead. Take it. It doesn't matter anymore. But you might want to check your credit report again. Little sister, I told you I found a way. You are already in deeper than you think." I stared at the text. "You are already in deeper than you think." A cold knot formed in my stomach. What had she done? I had frozen my credit this morning. I had locked the accounts. Unless she had done it before today, unless the renovation quote wasn't the start of the scheme, but the final chapter of something that had been running in the background for months. I threw the car into drive. I had 90 minutes until the appointment at River Valley Title. I needed to get there not just to stop a future loan, but to find out what past ghosts she had already summoned in my name. The renovation was over. The demolition was over. Now, it was time for the excavation. The engine of my car was still running, but I was no longer driving. I had pulled into the empty parking lot of a closed garden center about a mile from my parents' house. It was a neutral zone, a quiet place where I could turn my sedan into a mobile command center. Marissa's text, "You are already in deeper than you think," was not just a taunt. It was a breadcrumb, and I intended to follow it into the dark forest of her financial creativity. I opened my laptop, tethering it to my phone's hotspot. The repo truck was gone. The black SUV was halfway to the impound lot. But the real machinery of this disaster was invisible. It lived in the servers of credit bureaus and banks. I logged back into the credit monitoring service I had checked earlier that morning. Before, I had only looked at the summary and the hard inquiries. Now, I clicked on the tab labeled Pending Applications and File Variations. It took a moment to load. When it did, the air in the car felt suddenly thinner. There were 3 alerts from the last 48 hours alone. One was the mortgage inquiry from River Valley, which I knew about, but there were 2 others. One was for a store credit card at a high-end furniture retailer. The other was for a personal loan from an online lender known for high interest rates and fast approval. Both applications were flagged as pending verification because of the freeze I had placed this morning. If I had waited even 3 hours longer to lock my file, both would have likely gone through. I expanded the details on the furniture store application. I wanted to see the contact information. Applicant Isla Simmons, SSN, my social security number, employer, River Point Facilities, email, Isla, finance, Mind Mail. Come. I stared at the email address. That was not my email. I had never seen it before in my life. I copied the address and pasted it into a search bar, but nothing came up. It was a ghost account. I called Renee. She answered on the first ring, the background noise of a busy diner clattering behind her. "Did you get the car?" she asked. "The car is gone," I said. "Mike took it, but Renee, I am looking at my credit file. There is an email address on these applications that looks like mine, but isn't Isla Finance, Maine. Marissa must have created it." "Of course she did," Renee said, her voice sounding like gravel crunching under tires. "That is the oldest trick in the identity theft handbook, kid. She creates an email that looks professional, uses your name, and directs all the verification links and billing statements there. That way, the bank thinks they are talking to you, but she is the one clicking I accept. You would never know the debt existed until the collections agency called. She was building a clone of me," I whispered. "A digital version of me that she could control." "She was building a mule," Renee corrected. "A pack mule to carry her debt. Listen, Isla, you need to print that page. That email address is proof of intent to defraud. It proves it wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding." She sat down, created a fake account, and used it to impersonate you. "I have the appointment at River Valley in an hour," I said. "I am going to bring this with me." "Good, but be ready for the guilt trip. I am seeing the Facebook posts. Isla, she is playing the martyr like she is auditioning for an Oscar." I hung up and opened the social media app. Renee was right. The narrative had shifted violently. Marissa had deleted the Family First post where she tagged me. In its place was a black screen with white text. "I am in shock." I never thought my own sister would leave a mother and her children stranded without a vehicle in the middle of winter. The cruelty is unimaginable. "Please pray for us as we figure out how to get the boys to school tomorrow. We are under attack." The comments were a mixture of confusion and outrage. "What happened?" "Isla did what?" "Do you need a ride, honey?" She was controlling the information flow. She was painting me as a monster who repoed a car out of spite. She left out the 3 years of missed payments. She left out the attempted sale of the vehicle. I felt a surge of nausea. I wanted to reply. I wanted to post the screenshots of the bank transfers. I wanted to post the foreclosure notices on her own integrity, but I stopped myself. Engaging in the comments section was a losing game. It was messy. Instead, I decided to go to the source of the pressure, Mom. Marissa was swaying Mom because Mom didn't understand the math. Mom operated on emotion. To her, renovation meant nice house, and Isla saying no meant Isla is mean. I needed to translate the situation into the only language that couldn't be spun raw numbers. I went back to my spreadsheet. I cleaned it up. I made it simple. 3 columns. Date, description, amount, paid by Isla. I included everything. November car loan payment covered shortfall, $400. October, phone bill unauthorized lines, $210. September, emergency cash transfer, $500. August device payoff, $300. I went back 3 years. The total at the bottom of the sheet was bold and ugly. Total financial support, 36 months, $38,450. That was a down payment on a house. That was a college fund for Ellie. That was my retirement contribution. Gone. I saved it as a PDF. I drafted an email to Mom. Mom, I know you are upset. I know Marissa is telling you that I am being selfish. Please look at the attached document. This is a record of every dollar I have paid to support Marissa and the family expenses over the last 3 years. I have paid $38,000. I have not been selfish. I have been carrying everyone, and I cannot carry a $92,000 renovation on top of this. The bank is closed because the vault is empty. I love you, but the math does not lie. I sent it. I didn't expect a miracle. Denial is a powerful drug, and my mother had been addicted to it for a long time. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I answered, bracing myself for the yelling. But she wasn't yelling. She sounded small, defeated. Isla, did you read it? Mom. I saw the numbers, she said quietly. I didn't know it was that much. I thought you were just pitching in here and there. It was never here and there, Mom. It was every month, for 3 years. But Isla, she sighed, and then came the sentence I knew was coming. The sentence that excuses all sins in my family. She has children. She is doing it alone. You have a good job. You can afford it. I squeezed the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Just because I can afford it doesn't mean she is entitled to it. I have a child too. Mom, Ellie needs braces. Ellie needs a college fund. Why is my daughter's future less important than Marissa's marble countertops? It is not countertops, Mom said, her voice trembling. It is dignity. Marissa just wants to feel proud of her home. Why can't you understand that? I understand dignity, I said. Dignity is paying your own bills. Dignity is not forging your sister's signature. Don't say that word, Mom snapped. She didn't forge anything. She was just expediting the paperwork. She was going to tell you. I have to go. Mom, I said, I have a meeting. If you go to that title company and ruin this loan, Mom warned, you are taking food out of your nephew's mouths. No, Mom, I said, I am stopping Marissa from eating my future. I hung up. The conversation had drained me, but it also clarified things. Mom would never set the boundary. She was incapable of it. She saw Marissa as a broken bird that needed to be fed, even if the bird was actually a hawk eating the other nestlings. I checked my watch. I had 45 minutes. I needed to secure the perimeter before I walked into that office. I opened my email again. I found the contact for Lux Build Contractors. I had spoken to the receptionist, Sarah, but I needed to put this in writing to the management. Subject: cease and desist. Fraud notification. Project 4092. To the management of Lux Build. This email serves as formal notification that I, Isla Simmons, have absolutely no involvement in the renovation project at parents' address. I am not the owner of the property. I have not signed any contract. Any signature purporting to be mine is a forgery. I have filed a report for identity theft. If your crews attempt to enter the property based on my credit or my authorization, I will hold your company liable for damages. I demand a copy of the contract you hold immediately. I hit send. Then, my phone buzzed with a text from Marissa. She had abandoned the woe is me act and moved straight to threats. I talked to a lawyer friend. You can't just take a car that I have been driving for 3 years. That is constructive ownership. If you don't bring it back in an hour, I am filing a police report for theft, and I will sue you for emotional distress. You are traumatizing my kids. I forwarded the text to Renee. Renee, let her file. Please let her file. The cops will laugh her out of the station once they run the VIN. Don't reply. She is baiting you. I didn't reply to Marissa. Instead, I focused on the road. I started the car and began the drive to River Valley Title on Main Street. As I drove, my phone rang. It was a local number I didn't recognize. I thought about ignoring it, but it might be the title company. This is Isla. Ms. Simmons. This is Gary, the project manager at Luxbuild. His voice was gruff, annoyed. He sounded like a man who was standing on a job site with a clipboard and a headache. I got your email, Gary said. And I talked to Sarah. Look, I don't know what kind of family drama you people have going on, but I don't appreciate being threatened with legal action. I don't appreciate having $92,000 billed to me without my consent. Gary, I shot back. Cancel the job. We already bought materials, Gary said. We have permits pending. And frankly, Ms. Simmons, I don't understand your game here. I was sitting at the kitchen table when you guys discussed this. I almost swerved off the road. Excuse me, I said, pulling the car over to the shoulder. When was I at a kitchen table with you? 2 weeks ago, Gary said. The lady, blonde, said she was Isla Simmons, signed the retainer, said she was the co-owner of the property and wanted the premium package. My heart hammered against my ribs. Gary, I said, my voice shaking with rage. I have brown hair. I have never met you. The woman you met was Marissa. She pretended to be me. There was a long silence on the line. I could hear the gears turning in Gary's head. He was realizing that his commission was about to evaporate and that he was standing in the middle of a felony. She showed me ID, Gary muttered, but he sounded less sure now. She had a driver's license. Did you look at the picture? I asked. Or did you just look at the name? I look. She said she was the owner, Gary said defensively. She said the deed was being transferred to both of you as part of the estate planning. She said that is why the loan was in both names. I froze. Say that again, I whispered. She said the deed was being transferred. Yeah, Gary said. She told me you guys were doing a quitclaim deed to put you both on the title so you could get the construction loan. That is standard stuff. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place with the force of a gunshot. Marissa wasn't just taking out a loan against my parents' house. She was stealing the house. She was using the renovation and the refinance as a cover to transfer the deed. She was going to put herself on the title, and to do that, she probably needed me on there too, temporarily, to qualify for the financing. Once the papers were signed, once the deed was recorded, she would own half the property, and knowing Marissa, she would eventually maneuver to own all of it. Gary, I said, listen to me. Do not set foot on that property. I am on my way to the title company right now to stop this. If you value your license, you will stay away. I hung up before he could argue. I looked at the clock. It was 1:45. I wasn't just fighting for $46,000 anymore. I wasn't just fighting for a car. I was fighting for my parents' home. They were about to sign documents they didn't understand, documents that would likely strip them of their ownership and hand it to a daughter who had just tried to sell a car that wasn't hers. I pulled back onto the road. I didn't care about the speed limit. Marissa thought she was playing a game of checkers. She thought she could just bully me into paying a bill. She didn't realize she had accidentally invited the auditor to the crime scene. She wanted to be the owner fine. I was about to show her what foreclosure looked like. River Valley Title Escrow was located in a sterile brick building on Main Street, the kind of place designed to project stability and trust. To me, walking toward the glass double doors at 1:55 in the afternoon, it looked like a crime scene waiting to happen. Aunt Renee was already there, leaning against a concrete planter, her breath puffing white in the frigid air. She was wearing her closing coat, a sharp, charcoal wool trench she usually reserved for evicting commercial tenants. When she saw me, she tossed her cigarette into a nearby bin and nodded. She didn't smile. "You look like hell," she said, which was her way of saying she was worried. "I feel like I'm walking to my own execution," I admitted. "Do they know we are coming?" "No," Renee said. "I called the front desk 10 minutes ago pretending to be an assistant from the lender. I asked if the Simmons file was prepped for the 2 o'clock. They said it was on the table in conference room B." "On the table," I repeated. "That means the papers are printed." "It means the trap is set," Renee corrected. "Let's go spring it." We walked in. The lobby was warm, smelling of stale coffee and carpet cleaner. A young receptionist looked up, smiling automatically. "Hi there. Can I help you?" "We are here for the Simmons signing," Renee said, breezing past the desk with the authority of someone who owned the building. "Isla Simmons and Renee Simmons. We are a little early." "Oh," the receptionist scrambled to check her computer. "I have Marissa and Martha listed, but I don't see— Oh, wait, the loan officer is already in the back. Let me just page him." "Don't bother," I said, stepping up beside Renee. "We know the way." We didn't wait for permission. Renee marched down the hallway, reading the placards on the doors. Conference room A, conference room B. Through the frosted glass of room B, I could see silhouettes, a man in a suit, a stack of papers. Renee didn't knock. She opened the door and walked in. The man inside jumped. He was young, slick-haired, wearing a suit that was slightly too shiny. He was arranging 3 separate stacks of documents on a mahogany table. "Excuse me," he said, looking affronted. "This room is reserved for a private closing." "I am Isla Simmons," I said, dropping my purse onto the table with a heavy thud. "And since my name is apparently all over these documents, nothing here is private from me." The closer blinked, looking from me to Renee. "Oh, Ms. Simmons, we weren't expecting you until the rest of the party arrived. Your sister said you might be calling in via video link." "Did she—" I asked. "Did she also tell you I consented to this loan?" "Well, yes," the man stammered. "The application was joint. I have the preliminary disclosures right here." "Show me," Renee barked. She didn't ask. She reached out and spun the stack of papers toward her. The man tried to protest. "Ma'am, I can't just—" "I am her legal advisor," Renee lied smoothly. "And if you want this loan to close today without a fraud investigation hitting your license, you will let us look at the file." The threat hung in the air. The closer backed off, raising his hands. I looked down at the paperwork. It was worse than Gary the contractor had said. The top document was a quitclaim deed. It transferred ownership of my parents' home from Robert and Martha Simmons to Robert Simmons, Martha Simmons, Marissa Simmons, and Isla Simmons. She was putting us both on the title. Beneath that was the promissory note. Loan amount $250,000. Interest rate 8.5%. Term 30 years. Borrowers Marissa Simmons and Isla Simmons. Collateral parents' address. I felt the blood drain from my face. $250,000. The renovation quote was $92,000. Where was the rest going? I flipped through the pages. I found the disbursement sheet. Payoff of existing mortgage, $42,000. Payoff of Lux Build invoice, $46,000. Deposit. Cash out to borrower, Marissa Simmons, $150,000. Closing costs, $12,000. She wasn't just renovating the kitchen. She was cashing out every cent of equity my parents had built over 40 years. She was taking $150,000 in cash, putting it in her pocket, and leaving me and my parents with a mortgage payment of nearly $2,000 a month for the next 30 years. "Where is the signature?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Show me where I signed the application." The closer flipped to a page in the back. "Here, the initial truth in lending disclosure, signed electronically on November 28th. I looked at the signature. It was digital. A cursive font generated by a computer. Isla Simmons. "And the verification?" Renee asked. "How did you verify her identity?" "We used the knowledge-based authentication system," the closer said defensively. "It asks questions only the borrower would know. Previous addresses, vehicle payments. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. Marissa knows all of that. We grew up in the same house. She has my car loan information because she has been driving the car. I need to see the wet signature documents, I said. The ones she submitted to get the approval. The closer hesitated, then pulled a folder from his briefcase. She dropped these off yesterday. The hardship letter and the co-borrower affidavit. He slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a letter explaining why the loan was necessary. At the bottom, in blue ink, was a signature. Isla Simmons. I stared at it. It was a good forgery. It had the slant right. It had the loop on the S right. But it was the signature of a 20-year-old Isla. It was the way I signed my name in high school, before I started working in corporate, before my signature evolved into the quick scrawl I use now. Marissa was copying from memory. That is not my signature, I said quietly. What? The closer went pale. I said, that is not my signature, I repeated, louder this time. I did not sign this. I did not apply for this loan. I did not authorize a deed transfer. Renee stepped forward, looming over the table. You have a problem, son. You have a fraudulent file. If you proceed with this closing, you are facilitating bank fraud. I didn't know, the closer stammered, gathering his papers. The sister Marissa was very convincing. She had the IDs. Where are the IDs? I asked. He pointed to a photocopy in the file. There, side by side, were copies of my driver's license and Marissa's. I looked closer. My license had expired last year. I had renewed it, and the new one had a different photo. This was a copy of my old license. Marissa must have stolen it from my old purse when she visited months ago, or found a copy in Mom's filing cabinet. Stop everything, Renee ordered. Flag the file. Call your underwriter. Tell them the co-borrower is claiming identity theft. I can't just cancel it, the closer said, sweating now. The other parties are arriving any minute. Good, I said, pulling a chair out and sitting down. Let them come. As if on cue, the heavy glass door of the conference room swung open. We are here, Marissa's voice chimed, falsely bright. Sorry we are a few minutes late. Dad walks slow and... She stopped. She was standing in the doorway, wearing her best responsible adult outfit, a beige blazer and dark jeans. Behind her, Mom and Dad looked small and confused, bundled in their winter coats. Marissa saw me. Then she saw Renee. Then she saw the file spread open on the table. The color didn't just drain from her face, it vanished. She looked like a ghost. Isla, she whispered. What are you doing here? I am looking at my new mortgage, I said, holding up the promissory note. $250,000. Marissa. Really, I thought the renovation was $92,000. Mom stepped forward, looking between us. Isla. You came, I knew you would come. I told your father you wouldn't let us down. She didn't come to sign. Mom, Marissa said quickly, her voice rising in pitch. She came to cause a scene. Look at her. She brought Aunt Renee. They are here to embarrass us. We are here to stop you from going to prison, Renee said, crossing her arms. Prison, Dad spoke up for the first time. His voice was raspy. Who is going to prison? Nobody. Dad, Marissa said, trying to herd them away from the table. Maybe we should reschedule. Isla is clearly emotional about the car thing, and she is trying to sabotage the meeting. Sit down, I said. It wasn't a request. It was an order. I am not sitting down with you when you are like this, Marissa snapped. Come on, Mom. We will go to another title company. This one is clearly unprofessional. You aren't going anywhere, I said. I turned the document around so it faced my parents. Mom, Dad, look at this. Can you read this line? I pointed to the cash to borrower line. $150,000. I read aloud. That is what Marissa is taking out of your house. Today, in cash. Mom frowned, squinting at the paper. No, honey, that is for the construction, for the kitchen. The kitchen quote was $92,000, I said, and that was inflated. This loan is for $250,000. She is paying off your current mortgage, which is fine, but she is stripping every cent of equity you have left, and she is putting the debt in my name and hers. But she said she would pay it, Mom said, looking at Marissa. She said the payments would come from the rental unit she was going to build. What rental unit? I asked. The quote was for a sunroom and a spa bathroom. There is no rental unit. Mom, there is no income. I looked at Marissa. She was backed against the wall, her chest heaving. Tell them, I said. Tell them how you plan to pay a $2,000 monthly mortgage payment with no job and a credit score of 500. I have a job, Marissa screamed. I sell essential oils. I am building a business. You have a pyramid scheme, Renee cut in. That is not income. I was going to refinance again later, Marissa cried, tears finally spilling over. I just needed a bridge loan. I just wanted to fix the house up so it would be nice for everyone. Why do you always have to ruin my plans? You have everything, Isla. You have the salary, the condo, the car. Why can't I have one nice thing? Because you are stealing it. I slammed my hand on the table. You forged my signature, Marissa. Look at this. I held up the affidavit with the fake signature. That is a felony, I said. Forgery, bank fraud, identity theft. If I hand this to the police, you go away for 5 years, minimum. Marissa flinched as if I had hit her. She looked at the closer, who was furiously typing on his laptop, likely voiding the transaction. She looked at Renee, who looked ready to eat her alive. Then she looked at Mom. Mom, she wailed. She is lying. I signed it because she told me to. She said she was too busy to come in, so I should just sign it for her. She agreed to everything. It was a desperate, sloppy lie. I looked at my mother. She was standing there, clutching her purse, looking at the document on the table. She looked at the amount, $250,000. For the first time in my life, I saw the fog lift from my mother's eyes. She wasn't looking at a renovation. She was looking at a debt that would swallow her whole. She was looking at a number that meant she would never retire, never be safe. Marissa, Mom said, her voice shaking. You told me the payment would be the same as our old mortgage. You said it was just a small adjustment. It would have been, eventually, Marissa sobbed. $2,000 a month, Mom whispered. We only get $3,000 a month in Social Security. How are we going to eat? I would have helped, Marissa insisted. With whose money? I asked. Mine. Marissa didn't answer. She just glared at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. You were going to use Isla to pay for it. Mom said, it wasn't a question, it was a realization. You were going to take the money, spend it, and then when the bill came, you were going to hand it to your sister. She can afford it, Marissa screamed. She is selfish. She doesn't need all that money. The room went silent. The closer stopped typing. Renee stopped scowling. Even the hum of the heater seemed to stop. Marissa had admitted it. She had admitted that her plan was simply to parasite off me until I was dry. Mom looked at Marissa. She looked at her baby, the one she had protected and excused for 40 years. And then she looked at me, the daughter who paid the bills, the daughter who drove the sedan, the daughter who was currently standing between her and financial ruin. You were going to bankrupt your sister, Mom said softly, and you were going to sell our house out from under us. No, Mom, Quiet, Dad said. It was one word, but it cracked like a whip. My father, who had been silent, staring at the floor, suddenly looked up. He walked over to the table. He picked up the quitclaim deed, the document that would have given Marissa half his home. He looked at it for a long moment. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, he tore it in half. Rip, he tore it again, and again. He dropped the confetti of paper onto the mahogany table. Robert, Mom whispered. The renovation is canceled, Dad said, his voice stronger than I had heard it in years. He looked at the closer. Cancel the file. Shred the papers. If I see one more bill, I am calling the police myself. He turned to Marissa. Dad, please, she whimpered, reaching out to him. Give me your keys, he said. What? The house keys, Dad said. You don't own it. You aren't on the deed. And after today, I am not sure you should be living in it. Marissa stared at him, shocked. You are kicking me out on Christmas. You tried to sell my house, Dad said. You tried to rob your sister. That isn't family. Marissa, that is a criminal. Marissa looked around the room, searching for an ally, but there were none. The closer was protecting his license. Renee was protecting me, and our parents were finally protecting themselves. She threw her keyring onto the table. It slid across the polished wood and hit the stack of voided loan documents with a final, metallic clack. Fine, she screamed, spinning around. Keep your rot-infested house, I don't want it anyway. You all deserve each other. She stormed out of the conference room. The glass door slammed behind her, vibrating in the frame. We stood there in the silence she left behind. I looked at the table, the torn papers, the keys, the evidence of a disaster narrowly averted. I felt a hand on my arm. It was Mom. She was crying. But these weren't the manipulative tears of before. These were tears of shame. Isla, she whispered. I am so sorry. It is okay. Mom, I said, though I knew it wasn't. It is over. No, Renee said. Picking up the affidavit with the forged signature, she folded it carefully and put it in her pocket. The closing is over, but the cleanup is just starting. She looked at me. You have a choice, kid, Renee said. We can walk away and let her run, or we can make sure she never tries to sign your name again. I looked at the door where my sister had just exited. I thought about the text she sent me. You are already in deeper than you think. I am not walking away, I said. I want that paper. Renee, if she opens so much as a library card in my name, I want to be able to end it. I turned to the closer. I want a copy of everything, I said. Every forged signature, every email she sent from that fake account. Print it all. The closer nodded, terrified. Yes, ma'am, right away. My parents stood there, looking old and frail. The dream of the family estate was gone. The perfect Christmas was gone. But as I looked at them, and then at the shredded deed on the table, I realized something. We had lost the illusion. Yes, but we had kept the house, and for the first time in a long time, I had kept my self-respect. Come on, I said to my parents. Let's go home. I'll order pizza. It wasn't a victory parade. It was a retreat from a battlefield. But at least this time, I wasn't the one paying for the ammunition. 2 hours after the disaster at the title company, we convened in the conference room of Aunt Renee's real estate office. It was neutral ground. There were no family photos on the walls, no stockings hung by the chimney, and no emotional anchors that Marissa could use to drag us back into the guilt of the season. There was only a long glass table, 4 chairs, and a silence so heavy it felt like atmospheric pressure. I sat at the head of the table. To my right sat Renee, acting as my witness and enforcer. Across from us sat my parents, looking aged and fragile, stripped of the illusion that everything was fine, and at the far end sat Marissa. She was no longer screaming. She was slumped in her chair, staring at the mahogany surface, her arms crossed defensively over her chest. I did not start with a speech. I started with paper. I opened my briefcase and began to lay out the documents, one by one, like a dealer laying out a tarot spread that predicted ruin. First, the unauthorized phone bill with the 3 extra lines. Second, the 12 months of bank statements highlighting the emergency transfers. Third, the car loan history showing the 36 missed or partial payments. Fourth, the forged affidavit from the title company. And finally, in the center of the table, the $92,000 quote from Luxbuild Contractors. We are not here to talk about Christmas, I said, my voice flat and echoing slightly in the empty room. We are not here to talk about family unity. We are here to talk about fraud. Marissa shifted in her seat. Isla, please, Mom is upset enough. Can't we just— Quiet, I said. I didn't shout. I just cut the air with the word. You had your turn to speak at the title office. Now you are going to listen to the accounting. I pointed to the contractor's quote. I did some digging while Renee was driving us here, I said. I looked up LuxBuild. They are a legitimate company, sure. But I looked up the project manager, Gary, the one who called me. Marissa flinched. Gary isn't just a contractor. Is he, Marissa? I asked. He is the same Gary you went to high school with, the one who was at your wedding, the one who has been commenting on your Facebook posts for months. Mom looked up, confusion clouding her eyes. Gary? You mean Gary Miller? The very same. I said. I called a different contractor. Mom. A stranger. I described the work Marissa wanted done: the bathroom, the sunroom, the kitchen. Do you know what they quoted me? I slid a second piece of paper across the table. It was a rough estimate I had obtained over the phone from a reputable firm based on the square footage. $45,000, I said. Maximum. The room went deadly quiet. The quote was $92,000, I continued, looking directly at my sister. That is a $47,000 difference. Where was that extra money going? Marissa, was it a kickback? Were you and Gary splitting the difference once the loan cleared? No, Marissa cried, but her face was burning red. Materials are expensive. You don't know what you're talking about. We wanted high-end finishes. You wanted a cash grab, I corrected. You inflated the quote to maximize the loan amount, planning to siphon off the excess. You were going to saddle Mom and Dad and me with a debt that was double the value of the work. I turned to my parents. She wasn't just renovating the house, I said gently. She was laundering money through it. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Dad just closed his eyes, as if he could block out the reality of what his daughter had become. This stops now, I said. I have drawn up a document. Renee slid a stapled packet toward Marissa. You have 3 choices, I said, and none of them involve you leaving this room without consequences. I held up one finger. Option 1. You sign this document. It is a formal admission of identity theft and unauthorized use of credit. You admit to forging my signature on the LuxBuild contract and the River Valley loan application. We will not take this to the police today. We will keep it in a safe, but if you ever, and I mean ever, use my name, my social security number, or my credit for anything again, even a library card, I walk this document to the district attorney. I held up a second finger. Option 2. You assume full liability for the debts you have already created. The 3 phone lines, you transfer them to your own account today. The devices, you pay them off, or you return them. I am blacklisting them regardless. I held up a third finger. Option 3. You refuse. In which case, I leave this room, I drive to the police station, and I file a felony report for the car theft, the forgery, and the bank fraud. You will be arrested before dinner. Marissa looked at the papers. Her hands were shaking. She looked at Mom, pleading with her eyes for a rescue. Mom, she whispered, tell her she can't do this to me. I am your daughter. Mom took a deep breath. She looked at the invoice for $92,000. She looked at the forged signature. You are my daughter, Mom said, her voice trembling but clear. But Isla is my daughter too, and you were going to eat her alive. Mom, Marissa gasped, betrayed. Sign the papers, Marissa, Dad said. His voice was like granite. Do what your sister says. You are lucky she isn't putting you in handcuffs right now. Marissa slumped. The fight went out of her. The entitled matriarch of the suburbs dissolved, leaving behind a scared, caught teenager. She picked up the pen. She signed the confession. She signed the agreement to transfer the phone lines. She signed the promise to cease and desist all use of my identity. What about the car? Marissa asked, her voice small. I need a car. Isla, the boys have school. The black SUV is gone, I said. It is at the impound lot. I am not getting it out for you. I am going to sell it to CarMax tomorrow to pay off the loan balance. It is over. But how will I get around? She sniffed. There is a bus stop at the end of the street, Renee said. speaking for the first time. Or maybe Gary can give you a ride. Marissa flinched. However, I said, offering a final, small mercy, not for her, but for my nephews. If you can get financing in your own name, Marissa for a reasonable, used vehicle, I will help you with the down payment. One time, $500, paid directly to the dealer. That is it. She nodded. Tears streaming down her face. It wasn't gratitude. It was the realization that the free ride was truly over. And one more thing, I said, turning to my parents. I pulled out a final sheet of paper. It wasn't a legal document. It was a letter I had written to them. I love you guys, I said. But the dynamic has to change. I am done being the silent ATM. From now on, if you need help, I need an invoice. If the furnace breaks, send me the bill. If you need medicine, send me the receipt. I will pay the vendors directly. I will not transfer cash to your accounts. And I will never, ever co-sign a loan again. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. Her skin felt dry and papery. We are sorry, Isla, she said. And for the first time, she wasn't adding a but to the end of the sentence. We got so used to you being the strong one. We got so used to you fixing it. We treated you like an insurance policy instead of a person. I know, I said, but I am canceling the policy. Mom, I am just your daughter now, not your bank. We understand, Dad said. He looked at Marissa, who was staring at her hands. We all understand. The meeting ended not with a hug, but with the shuffling of papers. Renee gathered the signed confessions and locked them in her briefcase. Marissa left first, walking out into the cold without looking back. Her keys to the big house still sitting on the table where Dad had left them. She would have to earn them back. I walked my parents to their car. They looked older tonight. The reality of the near miss had aged them, but they also looked relieved. The secret was out. The pressure was off. They didn't have a new kitchen, but they still had their home. Are you coming for Christmas? Mom asked, hesitantly, as she opened her car door. I looked at the snow beginning to fall under the streetlights. Not this year. Mom, I said gently. I think we all need a little space. I think Ellie and I are going to have a quiet one. Mom nodded, swallowing her disappointment. She knew she had lost the right to demand my presence. Okay, Merry Christmas, honey. Merry Christmas. Mom, I watched them drive away. Then I turned to Renee. You good? She asked, lighting a cigarette now that we were outside. Yeah, I said, exhaling a cloud of steam. I think I am finally in the black. You did good, kid, Renee said. You didn't burn the house down. You just evicted the rats. I drove home in silence. The radio was off. My phone was on the passenger seat, and for the first time in 3 days, it wasn't vibrating with demands, threats, or guilt trips. I walked up the stairs to my apartment. Inside, it was warm. The smell of cinnamon and pine met me at the door. Ellie was awake, sitting on the floor in her pajamas, tangled in a string of multicolored lights. Mom, she cheered, you are home. The tree looks naked. We have to dress it. I am home, baby, I said, dropping my keys. My keys to my apartment, the only property I needed to worry about, into the bowl. We spent the next hour winding the lights around the small, pathetic pine branch she had found. We hung the 3 ornaments. We made popcorn. I looked at my bank account on my phone one last time. The balance was low. The legal fees, the towing fees, the payoff for the phone devices it had cost me. But as I looked at the transaction history, there were no pending transfers to Marissa. There were no overdraft alerts. There were no mystery charges. It was clean. I looked at Ellie, her face glowing in the reflection of the red and green lights. She was happy. She didn't need a marble island. She didn't need a $92,000 renovation. She just needed her mother to be present, not stressed, not working a triple shift to pay for an aunt's greed. I realized then that for the last 3 years, I had been paying for a family subscription that I didn't use. I had been paying to be included in a picture where I was cropped out. Now, the subscription was canceled. Mom, Ellie said, placing the final star on the top of the branch. Is it perfect? I smiled, and it was the first real smile I had felt in days. Yes, Ellie, I said. It is absolutely perfect, because it is ours. I put my phone down, screen down, on the table. The silence in the room wasn't empty, it was full. It was the rich, luxurious silence of a debt paid in full. Thank you so much for listening to this story of boundaries, betrayal, and fighting back. I would love to know where you are tuning in from today. Are you listening on your commute, while cooking dinner, or maybe relaxing before bed? Please drop a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed seeing justice served, please make sure to subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories, like this video, and hit that hype button so we can share this story with even more people. Your support means the world to us.